There are 4 pairs of spring seats to fit each side of the axle guards. Clear the supports off the bottom with a knife or a chisel. Clear the hole out with a 3mm drill, and then snip the end of the filament that's going in there and push it in through the hole, make sure it fits, and then dab a tiny bit of super glue on the end, and there you can see it ready to go in. Put a little bit of super glue on the other end and they're ready to go on. They mount against the axle guards. You can see the holes on that picture for each one of the spring seats. Screw it in with a countersunk screw, and don't over tighten, but do make sure that it sits flush with the spring seat so that the spring's right over the screw, and you can see them there ready to accept the springs. Now the bearing spring shoes are in place, make sure that the countersink is flush with what is the bottom of the bearing spring shoe, so that when the bearing springs are running in it, they don't catch onto this. So it's a matter of just making sure and tightening, but not over tightening, because you don't want to split anything. You don't want to over tighten and split this shoe, which I haven't had happen, but it could happen if you really went after it with a screwdriver, I suppose. And yeah, we need to fit the axle boxes onto the ends of the wheel sets and put them in both at once, which I won't do while I'm holding the camera, but that just make sure first of all that the axle guard runs nice and smoothly on the axle box, or the other way around. We're going to put the wheel sets into the bearings, and both sides, because what you'll find is they won't actually go in if you put the axle boxes in first. So then we have to jiggle about a little bit, put the axle boxes onto the axle guards, and then each side we will fit the spring under the pin in the bearing spring shoe. Now I've fitted the wheel sets. It's a very loose fit at the moment because we will put washers in between the wheels and the axle boxes, but at this stage we're only putting the wheel sets in as a trial. So now each wheel set is in and each axle box is in, so we can see that they're both sitting on the axle guards, and then these steel leaves will fit under the pin, both sides. Sometimes you need to slide the steel, which will slide in the spring assembly. You need to slide it there. I can't really do it with one hand, but do mind your fingers. The edges are sharp, but it's okay. You can not cut yourself if you're careful, and you may need to bend them to fit them under as well. And they will go under. I need 2 hands to do it, that's all. So that's the next step. Do that both sides. Okay, I've jiggled the springs so that they go under the 2 pins, both sides. These are, by the way, printed wheels. These are not the Slater's wheels, as you can see. I actually find these run very well normally. So on some of my wagons, I don't use Slater's wheels because I print them. But anyway, just so that you know that they don't look like your wheels will look. These are temporarily fitted. You'll find that the wagon will turn over quite nicely without the wheels dropping out, because this assembly holds them in quite well. So you can now stand the wagon on its springs and see the springs working. And another trick that I've learned is that sometimes you need a little bit more angle on this radius of the steel. You can actually bend those carefully, not to put a kink in them, but to put a smooth curve bend, and you'll find you get a little bit more spring rate if you need it. My target is always to get them unloaded, which they obviously are at the moment, just above touching the axle guard stay, which is the small piece which bolts onto the bottom of the axle guard there. So that's the way that they fit together. And this is, as I say, it's a fitting job now to make sure everything fits. And when you turn the wagon over, you'll see that they do settle even unloaded. This wagon has a steel floor, so you can see, because I want this wagon to be take a light load. I don't want this wagon will actually have barrels in it which won't weigh very much, so I wanted to make sure that it didn't sit too high when it was loaded, because the normal load for these particular wagons was an 8-ton. This was an 8-ton wagon. The 16-foot wagons are actually 10, 12, or even 13 tons, depending on what era you're working in. So yeah, this is the assembly, and you can see we're pretty much finished with the underframe now. Everything's there. There'll be some more work to do, but I always leave the axle guard stays till the very end, because these, as I say, the wheel sets will stay in. We will put I supply some washers to put in, and there's even a C washer, so that once you've got it finally ready, you can pop a washer on even without disassembling it, if you find you need to. So once the wagon is built, I would take these out. But at the stage where you are, take them out, fit everything finally, put the washers on, so that you've got like a 1mm clearance each side on the between the axle box and the wheel boss, and then you can finish off with the axle guard stays. At the very end is when I do that, when I'm ready, when the wagon's finished. And the next stage now can be to fit the brake gear, and you really do need the wheels in to fit the brake gear, because what you want to be sure of is that nothing binds. So once you've assembled the brake gear, it needs to be clear of the wheels at all the travel. So the whole travel you can push with your fingers on one side, and you need to make sure that when the brake gear's fitted, you don't want to bind on the wheels. Yeah, that's a good reason to have the wheels in at this stage. Plus the fact you can stand the wagon up on its correct way up, and work on the body.